And sometimes they're not good for us. But how many of you know that God is a supernatural God? And there is nothing too hard for our God. And just like grandma would put the flour and the sugar and all of the other ingredients in the bowl, God has a way of making what I like to call a things cake out of us. All things work together for good. And there are 12 things in God's cake that he makes out of us. T-H-I-N-G-S. T, in all of our lives, there will be some troubles and some trials. H, there will be some heartaches and some heartbreaks. I, there will be some iniquities and some infirmities. In, there will be some needs, and there are going to also be some neglects. G, there will be some grief, and there will be some grievances. S, there's going to be some suffering and some sorrows. But God has a way. Even though none of those things are good by themselves, but God knows how to put the troubles and the trials, the heartaches and the heartbreaks, the iniquities and the infirmities, the needs and the neglects, the grief and the grievances, the suffering and the sorrows, and he can put them in the mixing bowl of life. And some way, somehow, if you just give him time, he'll show you that there's nothing too hard for him. I remember when grandmama would bake her cakes. Grandmama had an old shotgun house. Anybody know anything about a shotgun house? And they use that terminology because if you stepped in the front door, you could actually see the rear door. And the only time my grandmother would close the door to her kitchen was when she was baking a cake. And I know some of you feel isolated. You feel like you're all by yourself. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's baking time. Yeah, God got all of your ingredients in the bowl. But if he doesn't try you by the fire, you're going to be nothing but raw cake dough. And one of the signs that differentiate cake dough from a baked cake is when the bowl turns, raw dough will run. But a real cake will stand. And I'm here to tell you, I know it's been difficult for some of you. But I came with a word of faith to say there is nothing too hard for God. Yeah, God has you in the oven right now. He has you away from your family right now. He has you away from your friends right now. And that was the only time my grandmom would even make us mind. How many of you understand when you would go to grandma's house, you could do whatever you wanted to do? But when grandma had a cake in the oven, she'd look at you and tell you, you better sit down. She'd tell us, we ain't gonna have no wrestling for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Sit down. And some of you can't understand why you seem to be in a place of solitude. Why you're in a place of solace. Why is it that nobody around you is rejoicing? It is because if God allowed people to get too close to you, while you're in the oven, you'd fall. Can I get a witness? So God has you there. He has you there baking. And the purpose of you baking is for you to rise. Look at one person and tell them, I'm going to rise. Oh, yes, 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 I'm going to rise. Now, I want you to think about this. When the cake gets done, the test was Grandma would open up the oven. And she would take a old broom straw. And you be thinking about that stuff now, that was nasty. But she'd pull off a broom straw and stick it in the cake. And when she pulled it out, if any of the dough was on the broom straw, she closed the door, let it keep on baking. See, some of you got excited because God opened the door. And then you can't understand it because, ow, you felt something stick you. And when he poured it out, you were on the stick. And he said, no, they're not ready. Let me put them on back in there. I'm just trying to help somebody because you think God has forgotten about you. But I'm here to tell you, he hasn't forgotten about you. He's just trying to let you get right. He's trying to let you get done. Why don't you high five somebody and say, there's nothing too hard for God? And then finally, she'd go back and she'd stick that cake again. And when nothing came up but broom straw, she knew that the cake was ready. Let me give you this and then we're going to close because you can find a lot in the cake. See, a lot of us are working on some of the wrong things. Some of you, and I'm not trying to discount this. Please do what you do, okay? But some of you were in the mirror this morning for 3 hours trying to fix your face. But you haven't spent 3 hours all year trying to fix your mind. Some of you were in the closet for 2.5 hours this morning talking about, I don't have anything to wear. And all while you're saying that you're constantly moving clothes, I just don't have anything to wear. And you're trying to find the perfect outfit to go on your body instead of making sure that the Spirit of God is living on the inside of your body. Now, what do I mean? Why am I saying all of this? See, when we look at a cake, the part of the cake that you see in the oven is going to be here.